If you asked me what the biggest problem of my life was, I think I would name many things. But when I looked inside myself carefully, I found one thing that had been quietly controlling my days without me ever noticing it. It was my English. Not English as a subject. Not English as a skill I did not have. English as a fear that lived inside me, quietly, every single day. It woke up with me in the morning. It sat beside me before I fell asleep. Sometimes it came as a job I did not apply for. Sometimes it came as a conversation I avoided. Sometimes it came as a simple email I read 3 times but never dared to answer. Slowly, I began to believe that staying silent was simply who I was. That if I spoke, people would see the thing I feared most about myself, that I was not good enough. That I did not belong in rooms where English was spoken freely, without fear. But one day, I asked myself a question that quietly changed everything. I asked myself, after all these years of staying silent, what has this silence actually given me? A long stillness settled over me after that question. Because for the first time, I had to accept something uncomfortable. My silence had not protected me. It had only kept me away from living. I began to watch myself carefully. What did this fear actually do? It never gave me a real answer. It simply showed me the same problem, again and again. If a conversation was coming, my mind made 100 ways it could go wrong. If a challenge appeared, my mind made it feel much bigger than it truly was. If there was any doubt about how I would sound, my fear built a wall of dread around it before I had even said one word. Slowly I understood that fear's job was never to find an answer. Its job was only to sit with doubt and hold on to it tightly. It asked questions but never listened for the answers. It knocked on the door of my mind, but once it came inside, it never knew how to leave. The more I feared speaking, the less clearly I could actually think in the moment I needed to speak. Then I noticed something else inside me, something that shook me deeply. Whenever I feared an English conversation ahead of me, my body had already started suffering for it before it had even happened. My breath grew shorter. My chest felt tight. My shoulders felt heavy. Sleep did not come easily the night before an important call. Even food lost its taste on days I knew I would have to speak in a meeting. Only then did I understand, for the first time, that fear turns a future moment into a real problem right now. The moment had not happened yet, but I was already carrying its weight. This is the biggest trick fear plays on you. It makes you pay, before it even happens, for pain that may never actually come. I began to notice something more. This fear was not only about the future. It was tied to something deeper, a lack of trust in myself. When I did not trust the voice inside me, I tried instead to control everything around me. I wanted every word to be perfect before I said it. I wanted no one to notice my accent. I wanted no grammar mistake to ever leave my mouth. I wanted to be sure of everything before I let myself be heard. But life showed me, again and again, that this kind of certainty would never come. Language, like life, has one true nature: it changes, it grows, it stumbles before it flows smoothly. The more I tried to stop myself from stumbling, the more fear I created inside myself. I slowly realized I was not fighting my own limits. I was fighting the very nature of learning itself. And anyone who fights against the nature of learning will always end up tired. I began to remember my old years quietly. How many nights I had lain awake, thinking again and again about a small mistake I had made in a sentence hours earlier. How many days I spent worried over conversations that, in the end, never even happened the way I feared. How many times I believed everything was over, only to find that time simply moved forward. Things changed. Some fears disappeared on their own. Some found their own quiet answers in their own time. And some, strangely, made me stronger. Then I asked myself something new. If life had already carried me through every hard thing I had faced until now, why did I still refuse to trust it with the next one? This single question began to open a new door inside me. For the first time, I saw clearly that my fear was never based on what was real. It was based on a lack of trust in what was still ahead of me. And here I noticed something even deeper. My fear always pulled me away from the present moment. I would be sitting with someone I loved, but my mind would be stuck in a conversation I feared having tomorrow. I would be eating a meal, but I could not taste it. I would walk through a beautiful evening, but I would not truly see it. My body was here. My attention was trapped somewhere in the future. I understood then that fear does not only steal tomorrow's joy. It quietly steals today's life as well. It tells you, first make the future safe, then you may live. But the future is never fully safe. And so a person who follows fear never truly begins to live at all. Then I made one small change inside myself. Whenever the fear of speaking rose in me, instead of fighting it, I asked it one simple question. Is there something I can actually do right now? If the answer was yes, I did whatever I could. If the answer was no, I saw that this fear was simply using up energy for nothing. This one question slowly began to change everything inside me. Because now I began to understand the difference between fear and responsibility. Responsibility works in the present moment. Fear wanders endlessly in the future. Responsibility creates an answer. Fear only creates tiredness. I remember the exact evening this changed from thought into action. I found an old, plain notebook in a drawer, forgotten, its pages still empty. I do not know why I picked it up that night. But I sat down, and for the first time in years, I wrote one single English sentence in it, slowly, carefully, without needing it to be perfect. Today I felt afraid, but I am still here. That was all. One sentence. Written by hand, in a language I had spent years being afraid of. Nothing big happened that night. The world did not change. But something small shifted quietly inside my chest, the same quiet shift I imagine a locked door makes the very first time it opens, even by an inch. The next evening, I wrote one more sentence. And the next evening, another. I did not write to become perfect. I wrote simply to prove to myself that my voice, even if unsure, deserved a place on the page. Weeks passed this way. My small notebook habit slowly grew a little braver. I began reading my sentences out loud to the empty room, something that felt strange and uncomfortable at first. My voice sounded different than I had imagined. Slower. Less sure than I wished. But I noticed real mistakes, gently, without shame, and I simply tried again the next evening. Then, one afternoon at work, something small happened that surprised even me. Someone asked a direct question in a meeting. In the past, I would have said only yes, that is fine, and said nothing more. That day, without fully deciding to, I answered in full sentences. My voice shook a little. I made one small mistake halfway through. No one laughed. No one even seemed to notice. The meeting simply continued, exactly the way it always had. The world did not end. The mistake I had feared for years landed quietly in that room and disappeared, the way a small cloud passes and the sky continues on unbothered behind it. I want to be honest with you. This did not fix years of fear in a single meeting. Old fear does not go away that quickly. There were still many days after that when I said only yes or I will check, when the old silence came back and closed my throat again. But something inside me had changed for good, even if slowly. I now knew, from real experience, that a mistake spoken out loud did not destroy anything. It simply passed, the way weather passes, and life continued quietly on the other side of it. I began writing a little more in my notebook, speaking a little more out loud. Not perfectly, not without fear, even now. But regularly. A little more than the evening before. I noticed the change moving beyond my English, into every corner of my life. My breath, for the first time in years, began to grow deeper on its own. I had never realized, until fear loosened its grip, that I had been breathing shallow breaths for years, as though some part of me was always getting ready for danger. Fear never breathes deeply. It is always rushing, as though something inside is always running from something it cannot see. But the day I let a little of that fear go, without trying to force anything, I noticed my breath simply growing deeper on its own. I noticed my body too. I used to believe my tiredness came only from work. But I slowly understood that my mind had been more tired than my body ever was. Fear kept my whole self ready, all the time, for a danger that rarely came. My body spent all day getting ready for a fight that never started. This is why, By evening, I had nothing left. But as the fear eased, I felt lighter without anything around me actually changing. Same work. Same responsibilities. Same daily life. But the weight inside me had grown lighter. I saw a deep change in my relationships too. Before, when someone spoke to me in English, I could not fully listen. They would still be speaking, but my mind was already worried, already checking whether I would say my reply correctly. I did not see people as they truly were. I saw them through the eyes of my own fear. But as that grip loosened, I began, for the first time, to actually listen. Without rushing to a conclusion. Without reacting right away. And then I understood fear was not only tiring me. It had built a quiet wall between me and every person I spoke with. When that wall came down, closeness came naturally, in a way years of trying never could. I saw the change in how I made decisions too. Before, every choice, whether to speak up, whether to apply for the job, whether to answer the question, felt too heavy to carry. I would think for hours. What if I said it wrong? What if I failed? What if people did not accept me? But slowly, as the fear eased, decisions became simpler. Not because every answer had come, but because I had stopped treating each choice as a final test of my worth. I finally accepted, for the first time, that in life there will be some mistakes, some wins, some paths that change direction. And this is simply the nature of any journey worth taking. This acceptance quietly lifted a weight that had made even the smallest decision feel too heavy. There is one more truth I found along this quiet path. Fear always wants to control what is coming. But the moment fear eases, the need to control eases with it. Before, I wanted every word to go exactly as I planned. I wanted people to respond exactly how I expected. I wanted things to happen exactly as I imagined. But life kept choosing its own way, and every time it did, this troubled me. Slowly, I began to see that life was far bigger than my ability to control it. And this understanding was not defeat. It was, quietly, a deep kind of rest. Because I no longer needed to stand guard over every single moment. The most beautiful effect of this change touched the way I saw everything. Before, I saw a problem in every situation. Now, I began to see a chance. Before, every new challenge felt like a threat. Now, that same challenge began to look like an open door. Before, not knowing what would happen scared me. Now, that same not knowing began to make me feel alive. I understood, for the first time, that the world had not changed. The eyes seeing it had changed. And when the way you see changes, the very same world begins to look completely new. Slowly, something gentle began to grow inside me too, a quiet kindness toward myself. Before, I was hard on myself. If I made a mistake, I would carry the shame of it for days. Fear had always told me that if I stayed hard on myself, mistakes would never happen again. But it worked the other way. The more I blamed myself, the more worried I became. Only when I began accepting myself, mistakes, hesitation, imperfect sentences, and all, did the pressure inside me finally begin to lift. I understood then that the end of fear does not come only from letting go of the future. It comes from making peace with yourself. And then one day, I felt something I had never truly felt before. Before, every morning arrived carrying yesterday's unfinished worry. Now, every morning began to arrive carrying a new page. Before, I believed life was a constant fight. Slowly, I began to feel that the fight had never truly lived in life itself. It had lived inside my own mind. The world had not changed. What had changed was that my whole self had come back into rhythm with life again. My breath came easier. My body felt lighter. My relationships grew closer. My decisions became clearer. And for the first time, I began to feel calm inside, without needing any outside reason for it. From there, life stopped being something I simply survived. It became something worth truly living. I still keep that notebook. It is full now, page after page, with small, imperfect sentences written across many quiet evenings. Some pages have crossed out words. Some have grammar I still am not fully sure of. None of the pages are perfect. But every single page is honest. And every single page is mine. If you are carrying your own kind of this fear right now, the fear of opening your mouth in English, the fear of being seen as not good enough, the fear that has quietly ruled your days without you ever naming it. I want to tell you something simple. You do not need silence to be safe. Find your own notebook. It does not need to be a real one. It can simply be one sentence, spoken quietly to an empty room, or written by your own unsure hand. Write one sentence today. Imperfect. Honest. Yours. Then another tomorrow. The years of silence will not end in a single evening. But they do not have to stay your whole life either. They can simply become the pages behind you, the ones you no longer need to fear turning back to read. I'm Elena, and this has been Simply Listen. If this story reached something quiet inside you, please like this video, and share it with someone who has been carrying their own silent fear. If today's story reminded you of your own notebook, the one you have not yet started, tell me in the comments below. Thank you so much for listening today. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next story.